Hello, Sarah of Melting Star Handmade here. In this video, I will show you how to make this cute fox plush for yourself. You can also learn to do the applique just using a sewing machine without an embroidery machine if you don't have one. I got this pattern from Choly of Sew Desune. I will put her link in my video description. Make sure to check her out, because if you don't like this fox plush, she might have something that you do like. She even works on fan art or other designs that she did herself, like this one. She puts out free patterns about once a month, so make sure to check her out. She's the best. And for this fox, you will need the materials here. They're easier to list instead of just say. So if you need to pause the video, if you're going to follow along, make sure you do. And because this took me about 4 hours to make, and I made it into a 1 hour video. So even if you don't want to make it along with me, you can still enjoy the video. So I'm going to get started on making this cutie now. First, you'll want to print out your pattern, and it's the last 3 pages of her PDF that you can download for free. We want to cut out on the solid lines here. These dotted lines are where you would actually sew. I forgot the name for it. Seam allowance, right. So we cut here, and then the seam allowance is here. This is where we will actually sew. And you want to cut all of these out. These little ones you don't want to cut out yet. The tiny ones without the dotted lines on them. We'll put those aside. Those will be for our details on the eyes. And same with this one and this one. These are the details on the face and the ears that we will do later. So let's cut all of these out on the solid line. And I'm going to speed up my video so you don't have to watch the whole thing in real time. So let's get started. Okay, when you come across these little diamonds, I cut the opposite direction. So I make a little triangle going the opposite way. And I'll show you why I do that later when we're cutting out the fabric. So as you can see, I did the opposite triangle right here as well. And these darts you can cut out now, or you can cut them out later. They will come into use later, but since I have my scissors out, I'm going to use them or cut them out now. So I just kind of fold the paper and cut in the middle of them. And then I can stick my scissors in there. And if you need to use smaller scissors on this, you can. I really like my spring-loaded scissors, so I'm going to keep using them. They help my hands not hurt. And then we can just throw that little piece you cut out away. So let's do this on all 3. Alright, now we have all of our pieces cut out. We can get our fabric that we have chosen out as well. I am going to set these aside because these are the applique pieces. This one is mostly I'm gonna do this in forgot the word. I'm not going to be doing this in fleece. I will be doing this in a different material. So I'll set this one aside. These ones I will be also doing them in fleece as well as the rest of them. So I am going to go get my fabric and we'll get moving on the next part. So before I get my fabric all out and my marking tools, I'm going to lay these out in what color I want them to be in. She does a very good job at marking. Like this one says cut 1 from the main fabric. So if your main color is orange, you'll do 1 of the orange. So I'm going to put that in my main color pile. This one also says 1 from main fabric and 2 from scrap. Your scrap, it can be anything that you would like. I like to use muslin as my scrap because I rarely have scraps the way I sew. So I just use 2 of scrap, and we can also do that, 1 of main. And then I'm going to do black ears, so I'm going to put the ears over there. This one says 2 of main, 1 of accent, so my accent is going to be white. So I'm going to do 2 of my orange, 1 of my white, and then I'm going to do, what did I do? A white tail tip. Classic red fox. She did a dark accent. I'm choosing to do a white tail tip. So you want to check your stretch. This is the stretch direction. This is not. It still kind of stretches, but not nearly as much as this, as you can see on the camera. And then we want to check our nap. The nap on the fleece is really hard to tell. It's much more obvious on Minky. But anyway, so we're going to find our white piece that I put over here. There we go. We want to make sure our nap is going the same way that the arrow is pointing, and our stretch is going the same way that the arrow is pointing. Let's move our black for now so we don't accidentally cut it. And we're only cutting 1 of the accent fabric, or 1 of the white, for his white belly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it. You can pin it, is another option. I'm just going to hold it still while I trace with my air erasable pen. And this is safe for fabric. Make sure you have something that's safe for fabric. If you use like a Sharpie, it will bleed and show through. And set this aside. Now that I've done the white stomach, this is all going to be orange. So where's our other white piece? I'm sorry, I'm not being very organized today. I said I wanted to do white in the tail tip. And now I can show you how to do the ear. Let's see, I've already done that piece. I don't need that anymore. These are all going to be orange now. And here is my black. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you and not skip this part is because the black, it's a little bit harder to see. You can't use this. It won't show up. You have to use something else. Let's make sure our nap and our stretch is going the right way first. Let's see, stretches this way. Now I can't really tell the nap. We're going to go, the nap's going this way. Now we need 4 of these. So I'm going to just flip this so it creates a reverse. And do 1 here. And like I said, I do like to pin it more when it's doubled up fabric. So I'm going to pin this, making sure I'm going through the pattern image and all of the fabric. So now they're sandwiched together. We're just going to cut this out. Try not to cut the paper while we do it. Okay, so this now is 1 ear. Because we have 2 pieces that are mirroring each other. Oops. 2 pieces that are mirroring each other, so this is now 1 ear. Put that aside and we'll do this again. This one we need 2. So we are going to stay. We're going to fold this over. Okay, we have all of our pieces ready. We got all of our orange, our scrap, our black, and our white. Now we can move on. We're just going to set those aside for a second. We're going to move on, and where did that go? Let's work on our applique pieces. I have got, this is Heat and Bond. Let's see if I can show you. This is Heat and Bond. There's the label. There we go. This is Heat and Bond Light Sewable. So you can iron them on and then sew over the top of them. So I have my Heat and Bond. And I'm going to tape off without ripping it. There we go. I'm going to, let's see. Let's start with the ears. And I kept this because we're going to need that for placement. Start with the ears and the muzzle. We're doing white for both. So what we want to do is take our heat and bond, lay it over the top of our pattern that we want to be on there. Let's see, where did I put my pencil? I just had it. There it is. Alright, so let's see, pencil. So then you trace over the pattern that you can see through the heat and bond. So it transfers to the heat and bond here. Since we're doing both of these in the same material, I'm going to trace them at the same time. Just making sure I have enough room between them to get scissors in between and cut. Make sure they're both facing the same way. The nap is going this way. It's okay if you want to make notes on top of this, like I want to say this is white. The notes, any things that you draw on this will not show on your ending pattern, your ending plushie. So we're going to do white fleece on all three of these. And because I don't want to get the iron out twice, I will get my face pieces ready. And as far as the face pieces, I'm actually going to be using felt. I forgot that word earlier. So I'm going to be using felt on the eye pieces and the little tiny accents. As far as the white eye shine and the whiskers, I will be using something a little different because they're so teeny tiny. They're going to be hard to applique with the sewing machine. So we are going to cut out everything but these two here. So that's black, white, turquoise. Alright, now we'll get the iron out. So while this warms up, I'm gonna kind of lay out my things here. You do want to do it on the back of your fabric if there is a backing to yours. This is kind of a cheaper felt. It doesn't seem to really have a back or a front. So I'm just going to put it right there. Okay, so it says 2 seconds. So we're going to take our little iron here. Make sure it's actually laid out right. Let's go 1, 2. Good. Yep. 1,000, 2, 1,000. And I still have adhesive on my iron. Grumble, grumble. From when I was making my own tags for the stuffed animals, I accidentally got adhesive on my iron. Okay, those are bonded where they need to be bonded. So now we can cut them out. Alright, so these are all the little eye piece, or the face pieces. So this would go in here, and then we're gonna do white fabric paint for the little eye shines. And these are the little eyebrows and the nose. But before we can add this, let me show you. Before we can add these, we have to do the applique first. Because if we don't do the applique placement first, our nose will be covered. So we're going to move these aside for now and not lose them. And now we're going to work on our cutting out our applique pieces for the face. Now we need to add these on. We need to add these onto our pieces. Now for our ears, we want to do opposite ears. So don't have them go in the same direction because it's very subtle, but there's 2 different directions to these ears. So we want them, yeah, See, these ones are going opposite directions. And then to find the placement, what you want to do is see that this one is going that way. Yep. So we pull off our paper, our adhesive, with an eyelash apparently. We'll be showing, and we kind of like hold it over where it belongs, and we pull the paper away. And then we iron it on. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, stupid adhesive. I see a little mark of where it was supposed to be. It didn't stay. I need to clean my iron. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, bad iron. Why is it not sticking? Hold on. Editing Sarah here. I did figure out later in this video that I was not using my pressing cloth, and using a pressing cloth is important, so make sure you use one and you won't have these problems. Okay, so it started to stick in a few spots. Maybe we just need to do it a little longer. Try not to burn it. There we go. Yay! Okay. Now to do the opposite side. This is a little bit more tricky because it won't fit if you do it like that. We need it to be the opposite. So we take our pencil, and then if you can see through, there we go, see through the paper, and draw that cute little ear tuft. Like that. And then now our reversed ear, we can hold this here. Make sure you remove your paper backing. So your adhesive is showing. You can see it's a little shiny. I don't know if you can see it on the cameras. It's shiny. Shiny adhesive. And then we hold it where it's supposed to be and slowly move the paper away. And then we hold it on this one. Where's our face? There it is. And I apologize. Sometimes I'm not very organized. I'm just kind of like that person sometimes. And that's okay. It's okay sometimes. So we take our paper off. So I'm going to make sure this is down here. It looks like I didn't cut very well, but that's okay. We're just going to make sure this is at the bottom. As straight as we can make it. And then we're going to bond it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No! I'm doing it too fast again. I'm so worried about burning this. You know what? Maybe I can use my iron thing. It keeps stuff from getting burned. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. See, not melting it anymore. Let's start appliquing. What I did is I set my sewing machine to a zigzag stitch where it goes back and forth, and I have the stitches very, very close and wide enough where it can jump from one side to the other. So jump to the white fabric, jump to the black, this is orange. White, orange, white, orange, you know, like very, very close. So I hope that you can see as well as you can. I'll try and get you the best angle and also so I can see. Let's see. So I'm going to start on this edge here, and I'm going to make sure that the line of the orange and the black is right on my line on my foot here. So And we're going to start kind of slow. Unthreaded my machine here. Rethread the machine. So I have white thread in here to match the muzzle. Alright, so some scissors to cut this. You can see where I fought a little bit to get started. Right here, it kind of gummed up. I didn't want to get started. But once it got started and I moved slowly along, it looks really great. Let's see if, make sure we're focused here. And I cleaned up the iron lines by using a pet hair remover that I used to clean up my fabric to get all the little fuzzies off. And it helped fluff this fabric back up, so the iron lines did go away. Now we have this applique on here. We will repeat that with the ears. So we're going to set that aside. We're going to do that with the ears. The ears, you might want to go really slow on these little loops here. Those are the hard parts. I had to kind of Google how to do the curves. So if you need to find other videos other than mine, please do so. I'm not a professional at this. I'm just learning this as well. Maybe I can have some good videos, the ones I found, in my video description so that you can have other ideas. I want you to be able to make this cute plush for yourself. Like I said, if this applique stitch is a little too difficult, you could always do a straight stitch as well. Alright, I did better that time. See, we might have missed some of the white right there, but there you go. Now we'll have to get the iron back out. I'll change my camera angle here again because we need to finish putting the pieces on our face. Alright. So for our eyes, we're going to line it up here like we did last time. And we're going to start with these colored pieces. Pull off the backing. You know what? I guess we need our iron on, huh? Okay, now that that is preheated, we're going to grab our eyepiece that does not have adhesive on it anymore. And we're going to kind of hold it here where it belongs while we move the paper away. Ah, I feel like I didn't do that right. Let's try that again. Okay. I'm gonna make sure the muzzle's in the right spot. Let's do the other side since we're here. Looking good. Now you can use this part, but it's pretty straightforward. You just want it to kind of be at the very top of this turquoise. So pretty self-explanatory. At the top of the turquoise. Now let's do the nose. Nose. Okay, hold it there. Remove the paper. If you don't like the, I mean, honestly, you can honestly just put it wherever you want. I forgot to take the paper off. Blink. There we go. I think it looks good right there. Hopefully it stays. Stay there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks good. Now our eyebrows are the last ones. Let's see here. Alright, so now that this is all ironed on, we are going to let it cool, and next we will do the same thing we did here on the eyebrows and on the eyes and the nose. Okay, now we're going to applique stitch on here. Let's start on, guess we'll start in the middle. Try that. These are tiny, tiny pieces. I was considering doing these in fabric paint instead of fabric, but I figured I'd give this one a try. So we'll see how this goes. That was challenging, doing it so little. This is why I was thinking of doing it in the fabric paint, because that didn't do so great. But we're gonna do the next one. Look, much better. Better than this one. Yucky. Black. This black is gonna cover part of this turquoise, so we need to do this color first. So now we're gonna do, I'm going to sew from here to here and stop. Actually, sorry, from here to here. So you can see we sewed around here. Now we're gonna do it around here. So now they're attached. Now we can move to the black here. Okay, so now we're gonna go all the way around on the black, all the way. Okay, next we'll do this one. So now that I'm done with the eye, I'm going to work on the nose right here. And you do want to, like, because it's smaller, lift up your foot and rotate the piece as needed. I always rotated it when it was on the black of the nose to make sure that it was not making gaps as I sewed it. As you can see, we've completed all of the applique and everything looks good. You can tell that as I went, I got better. So keep that in mind. As you practice, you'll get better at this. You could tell which side I continue to do first. But now we are going to add the eye shines using fabric paint. You can use your paper pattern, like you see me doing here, to figure out where the eye shine goes. Make sure you shake your fabric paint well. I just got this from Walmart. Here you can see I'm reading how long it takes to dry. This is just a Walmart fabric paint. It took 4 hours to dry. I shake it very, very well, and then I'm going to test it on this scrap piece of felt to make sure it's flowing the way I want. And when I'm ready, I'm just going to put a dab. I didn't hold the paper pattern over where I wanted it because I was just kind of looking at it, eyeballing it a little bit. You can kind of do that, or you can use your paper pattern, but I just made sure that the circle was big enough that it looked looked cute. And then I do both sides using this fabric paint, and then we will let this dry. Okay, so to start sewing the face, we need to actually cut some of this out. You want to pull your adhesive away from the layers, and then we cut the orange off as much as we can. This will reduce the bulk in the sewing that we're going to be doing here in a minute, so it lays better. And you could do this before you sew the nose on so it's less thick, but then that makes it so we only have one layer instead of multiple layers. And the first step is usually to sew the face, but because I already have black in my sewing machine, I'm going to sew my black ears first. So first I'm going to turn my machine on, set it. I set mine to a zigzag of 1 and a stitch length of 3. That's my preference, but that's not everyone's preference. So first we're going to lay our 2 front ears down and find our matching back of the ears and lay them down. And then we're going to, I'm going to clip these. I prefer using clips when I can. They're easier to get on and off for me. we're just going to clip this around here like this. And I like to do multiples of things at a time, so we're also going to clip this one together so we could sew them at the same time. And I'm not clipping this side because this side we are going to leave open when we sew. So when we sew, we're going to sew around here and not sew here. So let's sew both of these. Alright, now that the ears are done, let's trim them. I'm just going to trim the seam allowance that I just made to make it so when we flip this piece, it's not so bulky and it lays better. You always want to make sure you're threading your sewing machine correctly so that it does not bunch up. Okay, now we could start sewing the face. So what we do is we take our main face. Now that all of our paint is dry, you could see it's still nice and shiny and cute. That's another reason why I wanted to use the paint on the eyes, is because it's a little shiny. Now we fold this in half like this. And I was noticing yesterday while I was working on this that my cut was a little funky on one of these. And that will probably work out when we sew. But anyway, so this top point, we make sure they're laying like together like a sandwich. And then we're going to sew right here. But when we get to the part that's still together, we are going to gradually go in for our dart. And I know some of you might already know this. I'm trying to make this as beginner as I can for those that don't know. And I'll try not to repeat myself on those very beginner techniques. So like as you can see, this is where my fabric ended, and this is where I carried on with the dart. And we'll do the same with this part. You can switch to white or whatever color you have right here. I'm gonna just go with orange and hope that it doesn't show through that much. This one was a little harder because of that nose being in the way to make the gradual. But let's see what we got here. We have, there we go. So he's got a cute little point on his nose now. All right, and now we are going to flip the ears and place them. Placing them, you can use these guides that are on the paper pattern. This one, she has the ears being placed right above the little face or cheek fluff. That's what we'll call it, some cheek fluff. So you could place your ears here. You could place them honestly anywhere you'd like that you feel is cute. But we're going to make sure that we're placing the right ones. They won't go like this. This is not how the ears point. We want the ears pointing towards the middle, like this. So we're going to take our first one, place it like she has it, kind of above the cheek fluff a little bit. And we're going to move our sewing machine to doing a basting stitch, which is just a straight line. Now, since this is a bigger ear, I'm going to clip part of it to hold it in place. Help me guide it. There we go. So basting stitch, which is just a single straight stitch. And this, when I do basting stitches, I don't put my fabric to the edge. I do like the middle, as close as I can to missing, honestly, to hide the basting stitch later. And I don't do any back stitching on a basting stitch. Let go. There we go. So honestly, I missed a little bit in a few spots, and I can redo it. Or I could have just left it. So honestly, oh, my needle! No! My needle literally fell out. I don't think it broke. Let's see. When you're messing with your needle, please keep your foot off of the pedal. It's the safest thing. Why did my needle fall out? That's insane. Yeah, you know, I sew a lot, so it probably just got loose. Let me cut this here. It
probably got loose because sometimes I just hand tighten it, and that's probably what happened. Anyway, okay, let's try that again. We're good now. And I'm gonna go a little slow because my needle might have bent when it came out. And we're good. Okay. Oh my goodness. Honestly, that has happened to me before. It's a little jarring every single time. Anyway, look where this ear is placed. It's adorable. Let's get our second one on there. Alright, so now let's flatten that back out. Now our face is starting to look like a fox. Look at that. It's so beautiful. Decided that this orange shows too much through the white. I don't like how that looks, especially right here, right under his nose. So I'm going to use my stitch ripper, and I'm going to take this out and re-sew it in white. There we go, that looks much better. You can't see that through there anymore. That looks much better. Okay, and we're going to want to change this back to orange. Okay, now we need to find our head back pieces. Get your head back pieces, and they need to go right sides facing. And we're going to clip this side together, and we're going to leave a gap. So let's see if I can find the right clips here. We want to leave a gap in our stitching about in the middle. So I'm going to double clip where I want to stop, and then double clip where I want to jump to leave that opening. We have a hole for turning. So now we get this piece and this piece. And we want to put the right sides facing, like this. We're going to clip this together, and sew this all together. We're going to go all around the whole piece. So let's clip this together. You want to line up your seams as much as possible. So like line these seams up, clip those together, line up your points, clip those together. Okay, it doesn't really matter where you start on this, just find a good spot and make sure the fabric is overlapping properly when you get started here. So I believe I got into a sewing zone and forgot to talk, so I'm going to add this voiceover now. What you want to do on the corners is slow down, and with the needle still in the fabric, stop and rotate. See, like you can see I'm rotating the fabric with the needle still in. And you want to do that very carefully around the cheek fluff areas. When sewing the ears, I tend to go to a straight stitch because my machine does not like to do so many layers of fleece. So we'll finish this piece. I do the straight stitch over the ears, and then I switch back to my zigzag stitch when I'm done with the ears. Here I'm just checking my seams to make sure that nothing was missed, I didn't get too far away, and if I need to resew anything, I do. Now that the head is done and it looks good, we can use our very sharp scissors that are spring-loaded, and we are going to trim around the cheek fluff especially. You want to do this because it decreases the bulk in the little tiny pieces and it lets you turn them easier. I'm also going to trim some of the bulk around the ears. This just makes the stuffed animal lie better. Now that it's all trimmed up, we're able to start turning it. I started by pulling the ears and then we can turn the rest. These are great for turning. They're called hemostats. They can grab stuff and help push stuff out that needs to be turned. They're not required. You could use a chopstick. I'm just going to trim these threads here that got through. Yeah, chopstick works okay as well. So hemostats are not required. I like to use them because they're the best I've found. I know Choly also says to use them. That's probably why I bought them, to see if they're good. And they are very good. I love the hemostats. Anyway, let's turn the little cheek fluffs out, see how they look. So go through the turning hole, and I'm gonna push these little cheek fluffs out. We have our finished head. It has some fuzzes on it. It looks great. Now we can add some stuffing through our hole here. I'm just going to use some polyfill. I have a very large box under my desk, so I'll pull some up here. Well, how you want to start is get a little bit here, and this is another way that the hemostats are great, is you get the tiny little bit, and then you can stuff it into these tiny little pieces here. Because it's hard to get those little pieces of polyfill into the tiny pieces, because you don't want these pieces to collapse and deflate. So I'm just getting a little more. Put it in the second one down here. So I stuff the tips of these pretty firmly because it helps them not deflate. And then we're going to start stuffing the head. Here, we're gonna make sure we stuff the nose really well. Alright, that looks good. I'm just gonna add a little bit more for this empty spot right here. So when we sew it shut, it doesn't look unfinished in the back. It's a nice little football shaped head. So cute. Alright, what we're going to do is now we need to ladder stitch this part shut. So get a little bit of thread. I usually just take it straight from the sewing machine here. That should be enough. And then we want to tie our end. There we go, that's a good knot. And then get our needle, hand needle. Alright, now we're going to start ladder stitching, and I did make a diagram so you can kind of see, here I'll start on this side, you can kind of see how to do this. You start by putting the needle in the hole and going out, and then that knot will catch. Just tuck that loose end in there, and then we go in the other side, out the other side. So jump over to the other side, the bottom, in and out on that same side. Jump to the other side, in and out on that same side. Alright, I got it shut, but I'm going to go back the other way for extra stability, extra strength, make sure it stays shut. No, it does. I like to make these as toys, so I don't want any stuffed animals to come open. Okay, tying off, this is a bit tricky. You want to be very close to where you just were. And catch a little bit of the fabric here. Get right there. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is take the string that came out of the fabric and wrap it around the point of my needle at least 3 times. And then pull this out. And it created a knot. So now we can hide that knot by putting the needle in the seam and taking it out at least a few inches away from where we just tied that knot. And now it's hidden in there, and we just kind of pull a little bit and trim it. And now it's hidden inside. Remove some of this polyfill. especially on the black, it's super obvious. Oh, there. That beautiful thing. Okay, looking good. Now we can start the body. Okay, before we start the body, we're actually going to work on the tail. Here, we're going to take our tail piece and get your pattern piece, and we're going to lay this over. We're going to draw, or trace rather, where these openings are. So trace these openings with your air erasable pen and do all three here. You know what, do it on the, I'm going to do it on the back side because you're going to be seeing that side, my bad. So do it on the back side of the fabric, not the side you'll see when you sew it. Do it on the side you will see sewing, but won't see once it's sewed, rather. So just trace these shapes here. Okay, let's start with the bigger one. We're gonna fold this. Hopefully you can see that marker. We're gonna fold this so that they kind of line up exactly. We got this folded in half here, and we're gonna sew over the top of this here to make it, it's like a dart where we don't have the fabric cut. So we're gonna just create this little tiny dart here. I kind of started off the fabric, and I'm gonna end off the fabric also, because this is very little. So you can kind of see, I missed it slightly, I went a little too far this way, but you just sew along that, and now I open it and you can see it created a little dart. You're not going to see that in the final product, luckily, but now we take it and we do that with this one, kind of fold it at the points. Okay, we're going to sew our tail tip. We actually don't need that part anymore. Let's make sure we can see this cutie face. Okay, so we get our tail tip and we line up these triangles here. I actually want to put a band-aid on. I don't want to get blood on the white. Okay, I wasn't even bleeding. I just didn't want to get the possibility of blood on this. So, alright, so I'm going to start by clipping right at that triangle, so we can kind of guide ourselves from that point. So this piece needs to line up to this edge here. It's going to kind of be a curve, so we just make sure it stays next. Let's see, we got through it. Yay, okay. Make sure that I didn't miss any spots. Looks good. Alright, let's see. Okay, now we're going to sew the tail together. I'm going to first start by lining up the seams here, because I really want those to be like very lined up. And then I'll line up this tip here. And on the tip we're going to kind of curve around and like kind of do an ending dart. Alright, let's start on the orange here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop right on this seam here. And backstitch a little bit. Okay, and to finish the white, I am actually going to switch to white. Because I don't want that orange showing through. Before I was like, oh, it doesn't matter, but then I saw it and I'm like, okay, to me it matters. If it doesn't matter to you, then you don't have to switch your thread. It's everybody's own preference. I just liked it not showing the orange. There we go. Okay, so now that the white is in, I'm going to start at that seam and do a little back stitch. Okay, so this part towards the end, you want to follow this curve and then like keep going like as if the curve is still there. Nice little curve, as you see. And then I'm going to get my sharp scissors that I almost dropped on myself. Cut this so it lays nice when we turn it right side out. All right, this looks good. Let's get our hemostats. Okay, you can see that it's got a nice little curve to it. Okay, now we're gonna stuff it semi-firmly. Now we can, it's got a nice curve to it. Let's get started on the next part. Okay, we want to get our side pieces here and our belly pieces. Make sure that your right sides are up. I like to lay them out like this. And then we want to do one side first. Just line them up like this, here. We're gonna go sew from this side to this side. And I have white in. I'm gonna leave it in since the belly is white. I will need to change it to orange for a little later. Now we can do our other side. And as you can see, we're gonna just do it. We're gonna open this piece back up and lay this. So we do the other side. Okay, and before I do the next step, I'm going to change my thread back to orange because the white will show through. I don't want that. Back to it, we are going to sew the tail to the body. We want to have the darts facing up and the seam up as well. To know where to place your tail, you can use your placement guide on the paper pattern. So it'll give you about, I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it here, kind of hold my thumb the bottom of it and put my tail at the bottom of it. Kind of flatten it out. Probably should turn my machine on first, but we could do a basting stitch to hold this tail in place. Okay, so now that's basted on. We want to close the body up with the tail inside. And we're going to sew this part. We want to flatten this out as much as we can. I know it's going to be a little more challenging with that tail in there. So I just kind of want to move it around. This tail's kind of heavy, so it's going to kind of pull on that. It's going to try to make it not lined up, so do little extra clips. And I start at the bottom and sew slowly over where the tail is at. Now we need to take the tail and put it on the other side of the body. So we can sew this bottom here. Okay, I want it to not be too far out so I can see the bottom pretty well here. It's not pulling it in. And now we take our bottom piece and we're going to put it on, we're going to attach it here. So just clip it, and especially right where the tail is on this seam here, I'm going to put extra clips to keep the tail from pulling this out of alignment. my thought is always more clips is better than not enough. Too much is better than not enough. You could always take them off. Okay, so now I'm going to sew this with the tail up here and out of the way. We'll have to move it as we go. And then we sew around this whole circle. Looks good to me. So now we can turn it right side out. There's his little body. Okay, now we can set this body aside, and we need to sew our little pouch here. This one we don't need to turn right side out because it's gonna be inside the plushie, nobody's gonna see it. So I'm going to stop about 1.5 inches, maybe 1 inch, before I got there. And this will be our opening where we add our poly pellets. So now we're going to get our poly pellets. Now I have a funnel that I like to use. It keeps it easier for me anyway to put it in. Some people will just like to use a spoon. I like to use my funnel, so as long as the opening is as big as this funnel tip, it works. So you get the funnel tip in there. And I do have a spoon to add the poly pellets in. Then you can hand sew this shut. I do suggest hand sewing shut, because if you sew it with your machine, you risk breaking your needle. I honestly do sew with my machine, I just do very slowly and carefully. So now we get our body again. Like I said, this does not need turned, because even though it's not pretty, it's going to be inside the body where no one sees it. So we put this little poly pellet pouch in first. This helps him sit up because his head's a little big. And we lay it flat inside of his body, so it's in his bottom here. Okay, when you're happy with its placement and you feel like it's laying flat, then you can finish stuffing the body with polyfill. And that should be good. Okay, now we need to get some thread. Add your knot. Everybody adds their knot differently. I don't know if I do it in a weird way. Okay. Now we need to do a gathering stitch on this neck. How you do that is I'm going to start back here, push through from the inside of the body out, and then you just go back in and out again, in and out again. And then you pull that, and it pulls it. If you pull on it, it gathers it together. So we'll do that all the way around this neck. Okay, when you get back to the back of the stuffed animal, you pull it tight, and it'll close that up. Now this is something I've added. You don't have to do this part. I like to jump across from where I started and tie a knot. Like I said, this is something I've added because I start to fumble with it and it opens back up and it frustrates me, so I like to add that knot because see, now I don't have to hold it shut, it's holding itself shut. So now you could either tie that, like cut this, tie it off, or we can jump to adding his cute little head. And we do want to make sure it's lined up so that his white is lined up as much as we can, because his face is a little bit bigger than his body on the white part, so we just want to make sure it's lined up as best as we can. And then we can start ladder stitching it when we feel ready to start sewing it on. I just wanted to add, another thing you want to do is make sure this back seam is lined up, and that'll help with alignment as well. Okay, now that our first round is done, we just make sure we're happy with the alignment, it's sitting where we want it to, because this is the time where if you wanted to undo it, you could still undo it and like realign it and move it around. So I'm happy with it. This black back seam is lined up pretty well. I don't know if you could see that. His head looks pretty straight on there. So I'm going to do another round to secure it better. Okay, now that I've tied that off and trimmed it, there is his body done, and we'll do the last step. Okay, for the last thing, we're going to wrap and sew this tail to the body. I'm just moving the stuffing a little bit so he can wrap a little bit more naturally. My darts didn't seem to curve in as much as hers. It might be because of the difference in fabric that I'm using. She used Minky and I used anti-pill fleece. So it might have been that, it might have been I overstuffed. But you know what, we're just gonna I'm gonna manipulate this a little bit to get it to curl more naturally with the body so I don't have to fight it as much. And then I'm going to sew this to the body using a ladder stitch. Okay, so on this one, because we don't have an opening to hide the ladder stitching, we need to hide it under the tail. So I'm going to kind of figure out where I'm going to ladder stitch it to. Like right, am I going to start back here? Or do I just want to start right here? I think I'm going to start right here. So I'm going to go to where you won't see on the tail and up to the top of the dart, because I want to hide those darts. I'm going to just trim this a little bit so it's easier to hide. And I'm going to hide it. I'm going to hide it in the tail, between the tail and the body. Okay. So now I'm going to hold the tail to the body like this while I ladder stitch it. So now, like I said, I'm going to clean it up. I just have a pet hair remover. It's called like Fur Buddy or something like that. This helps clean off all of the like polyfill, which is all over my table. Helps clean off all the polyfill, the threads, any fuzzes. Yeah, our fox is complete. Sit, buddy, sit.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more of my videos.